Hello, maths fans. This is what you've all been waiting for. Me and Ben have completed the SAT exam paper, the 2 math sections, and now we're going to mark it and see who won this complete non-competition that we've been doing.
Are we still maintaining this fiction? Are we still maintaining this is not a competition? Is that still what we're claiming?
I think we should. I think, it's what we did in the first one.
Yeah, and you lost and you're bitter.
Yeah, we won't talk about that so much. Let's focus on the one we just did.
Yeah, so we did an SAT. We tried to do a GCSE one last time, and we did all right, didn't we? And then this time you suggested we did the American version, but it's actually a bit later on in the school career, isn't it? This is age 17, 18, is that right?
I believe so. I think this is what you do when you're applying for university or college in the US. Yeah, that's how I've understood it. So it would be sort of equivalent to like an A-level exam. That's how I had it in my head.
Except for the fact that in the US they're studying a much wider range of subjects, and so they can't specialize as much in the maths. That's right, yeah?
That is true. Yeah. So yeah, how did you find it then? Come on, thoughts on the content.
The scariest thing I found is that some of it was multi-choice, and you had to fill in your answers on an answer grid. And we've established now that this time I tried to use the answer grid, and you just dodged that, did you?
Well, I thought I was doing really well, and I made a point to stress this in the video. I'm writing on the exam paper, Ben, so you can't get me for inaccurate graphs and everything last time, all of those, and I didn't feather. Anyway, we'll come to that.
The issue I had here is that in the GCSEs one, where you're meant to write on the exam, you didn't, and in the US one where you're not meant to write on the exam, you did. That's what happened, isn't it?
But yeah, I think I just, without realizing it, I just see what I'm told to do and don't do it. I try my best to do things correctly.
Well, what's quite useful is that we can see the questions alongside your answers, and so
I can see my beautiful handwriting and smiley face, because there was nowhere to write my name, so I felt like I needed to just write it anywhere, really.
No, it should have been a clue, Tom, that this was not what you were meant to do. There was like an answer grid that had like a space for a name.
But that looks terrifying.
Yeah, it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. Actually, there wasn't a space for a name, so I take back that momentary abuse I gave you there, sorry.
I think it's anonymized. I think the idea is it's just so anonymized, and I'm assuming the answer grid, and I'm sure any Americans watching will confirm or deny this, I'm assuming that means it's marked purely by a machine, basically. Which has pros and cons. I can see because that was going to be my main point on the exam was I didn't, obviously there was some challenging bits and you were tested in lots of different areas of maths, and of course we're going to talk about that when we look at the questions. But it felt like you couldn't go too in depth because everything was it was is it right or wrong? Yes or no.
And no subtlety in the mark scheme. Because on the GCSE one, even the GCSE one, we had an argument about how the mark scheme should be interpreted. And it looks like this is just black or white. Did you colour the right box in? And if not, tough. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, it was an interesting experience having never done an exam like this, because it's so different to what we do in the UK system. As you say, there's an actual mark scheme that it's open. It's always a little bit of flexibility. It's like, if you do something sensible, can we help you? Whereas this is just like a machine literally saying, is it coloured in or not? That's it.
I did find a problem with the answer grid thing as well. And look at this. Do you notice anything problematic? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. There is no 6. And since my first answer was a 6, at that moment, my world came crashing down around me. I'm like, what? It's marked by a computer, but I literally don't trust this computer anymore. So anyway, I presume on the real, not the practice SATs, that sort of error doesn't happen. But anyways,
I was about to say, yeah, that is, to be fair, this is a practice one, so I assume hasn't gone through as rigorous checks as the real ones. We'll support the SAT and everything it stands for. Let's not be too harsh.
So should we crack on with marking this?
Yeah. So in a slight difference to what we did last time, just to explain to everyone, we haven't yet marked each other's work. So I have Ben's script in front of me. Ben has my script. And what we're going to do is we're going to mark it live to get each other's responses and obviously ask each other what we were doing and discuss the questions. So we'll be marking it as we go through, and the final total scores will obviously then be revealed at the end. So you've got to stick with us and see everything to see what happens in this complete non-competition, which Ben is currently winning 1-0. Let's see if I can make a comeback.
You kick us off, Tom. Question 1. It's time to mark this. Let's find out. I'm going to put question 1 on the screen. This is what you wrote, and I think I agree. If you solve that equation, you get B, -1. Are you happy?
Yep. Yeah, you agree. You wrote B. Z is -1. Yep. Perfect.
I'm going to jot this down so we've got a record here. There's a B, and on my raw scores, I'm going to write a B as well, and that was correct. So that's good. First stop. But then we have question 2, which was a television. price of $300. What was this? Like a weekly payment formula thing, yeah?
It was. I had to think a little bit about this one, right? It's sort of because it gave you lots of words, didn't it? And you just had to translate the words to maths.
Bearing in mind, it's over a month since I actually did this paper. I have no memory of doing this. I think I put C. What did I? You put C. What did I put?
You put C, yeah. 300 minus 60 equals 30W.
And the correct answer is C, and that's a relief too. Okay, so let's just keep moving. We both got these correct. What's next?
The third question, something about merchandise and shipping. Oh, I enjoyed this one. This felt like very like, it's 2022. Let's like talk about shipping merchandise.
And it's like a token mod to the modeling of the real world in some sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, you put B. What did I put?
For question 3, yeah, you've written B.
And the correct answer is B. That's nice. Okay, question 4.
Question 4. What did we have to do there?
The line in the XY plane represents the relationship between the height and the base diameter of a cylinder of Doric columns. It's nothing. They're just putting some cultural references in here. Doric columns in Greek architecture. Literally doesn't matter. It's just you. Can you read the graph? The base diameter of 2. Can you go up to there? And you've put 21 feet. Interesting.
I went for C, 21 feet. You've also gone for C. Yeah, no, you've written C.
How much greater is the height? Oh, it's how much greater? Okay, gotcha. Base diameter of 5 feet. So, gotcha. It's the difference between 14 and 35, which is 21. And I'm glad to see that the correct answer is also saying C. That's a relief. Okay. Should we keep moving? Is there anything to say that other than that? It doesn't matter about the Greek columns there, does it? It was just a graph.
No, but I don't know. I kind of enjoyed it, though it was very distracting. It was similar with the merchandise one, because like there's a lot to read and process, and quite a lot of the information isn't needed.
And the whole paper, actually, the first 2 sections of this paper are reading and comprehension in a fairly, like, it's quite, I'd be quite tempted to have a go at doing this sometime, but another day. Let's keep going. So question 5 has the square root of 9x squared. I feel like there was a question like this on the GCSE exam, and it was asking, like, they got it wrong and asking why. Anyway, it's a very similar algebraic thing, but this time, if x is greater than 0, which is the equivalent, and you've said 3x, I presume I said the same.
Yes, you did. Yeah, you said A, which I think is correct. So yeah, like that one, obviously it could be plus or minus, but clearly, again, because of the style of it being multiple choice, they're not asking you to solve it. They're just saying, which of these can it be?
That's interesting. I disagree. I don't think that could be plus or minus.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Because it's got the square root. Oh, so you're saying if it had the brackets and then a half, then you would say it could be plus or minus.
Ooh, that's interesting. Less clear to me. I'm claiming that I think the radical symbol, that root thing, is by convention meaning the positive root of the 2 choices you have. Because it's making that symbol a function, which is why we have the plus or minus symbol in front of it in the quadratic formula to indicate that you can go both ways.
I agree with you there. But then what if it was to the half? What if it was 9x squared brackets and then it had a half around it? And it was solve this or something?
Well, to dodge that question, because I'm not sure how I should answer it, if it was x squared equals 9y squared, then in square rooting, I'd say, right, could go plus or minus, because I'm doing an operation on an equation, whereas I think the symbol notation. So I'm tempted to say that I think a power of a half would also mean, by convention, the positive root. But that's less obvious to me. I'm pretty sure I'd insist to school kids that the square root symbol, the radical, would mean the positive square root.
I'd agree. I'd agree, actually, now I've thought about it. But yeah, that was, I remember this thought going through my head. When I was doing the question, I was like, it could be plus or minus, right? But obviously they only give you one. It'd been really interesting if one of the answers was minus, right? Like, so they've obviously avoided that.
And that's the power of multi-choice, is that you can game it as a exam, and the person being examined is like, well, which option is closest? But you can also game it as an examiner by putting the common misconceptions in, and that's an interesting thing. But they didn't here.
Yeah.
But let's keep moving. So back to question 6. We've got x squared minus 1 over x minus 1. I like this because if you factorize stuff out, you did a lot more work here. I don't know what I wrote down on my script. Did I scribble work down?
Oh no, you kind of did the same. You rearranged, and then you got the top. So you rearranged and got x minus 1 times x plus 1 over x minus 1. So you factorized the top, difference of 2 squares, and then you just said x cannot be 1. So I think maybe you just cancelled it off the top and the bottom to get x plus 1 is minus 2, and then x is minus 3.
Right, and so you didn't use the difference of 2 squares thing. You expanded out the right-hand side.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're always neater, actually. You're always way neater. But I did, because I think the way I've done it, you could very easily think the solution was x equals 1, right?
Oh yeah. So actually, that's a really good point. On your solution, it does imply that x equals 1 is a possible solution from the way you factorized it.
Yeah, but I purposefully didn't circle it though because I did know. But you're right? That's I slightly mod. Yeah, I do remember thinking about this and mentioning it definitely can't be 1, and then solving it and being like, oh, that's a bit naughty because it's one of the roots. But I guess you probably were meant to do it your way because then they cancel and fully disappear from the problem.
So why did you like, what justification do you have for excluding the +1 answer there? Interestingly, so in part D, it gives you the option of -3 and -1, which is annoying. Like, if it given you -3 and +1, I'd be like, that's a sneaky multi-choice option.
That could be, yeah. I think my thought process was, as soon as I looked at it, I was just like, x cannot be 1, because otherwise nonsense is written on the page. That's just how I thought about it, because I was like, I can't divide by 0. I'm just going to, so in my head, I was like, whatever happens, x can't be 1, solve it. It wants to suggest to me that x could be 1 based on the factorization, but I'd already made a mental note of it definitely can't be 1, so therefore it has to be the other one.
And that, I mean, it's a sort of cautionary tale of working with any equation. If you do something to both sides, but the validity of that depends on the value of the variable in there. You have to consider it and sort of hold on to that value later on. Particularly if you square both sides, I think you can introduce extra solutions that don't work in the original equation, for example. And it's that sort of feeling, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, I quite like this question because it had that 0/0 sort of option.
Yeah, I think that was the first kind of like properly mathematical one, is maybe how I would say, right? That felt like you actually had to really know what was happening and, think like a mathematician to do that one.
I haven't been writing down our answers here. Let's just check what's been going on. So
we're all correct so far. Anyway, we're all correct so far, I think, both of us.
And question 7 was, are we on to that?
No, we're on to 7 now. So 7 was a graph, and we had to find the value at 0 based on.
All right, and it was just 4. It just feels like
the graph, wasn't it?
What's the y-intercept? And we both put D, right? So let's just write that down.
Yeah.
That's a relief. That's we know what we're talking about. Question 8 is an angle thing, which is 90 degrees, and then you just had to solve a little equation. You wrote down 5x equals 90, and therefore x is 18 degrees. Really sneaky, because I was tempted to circle 18 with this, I think, but I presume I didn't. Did I circle 54?
You did say 3x equals 54c.
Okay, that's a relief.
Yeah, no, that's another sneaky one, like, isn't it? Because you solve it for x, but then it's asked you for 3x. You just have to really read the question, I guess.
And the people who solved it for x and wrote down 18 and then circled the wrong one, I feel like they've done the maths right. They've just been penalised for multi-choice shenanigans. Then, yeah, never mind. Okay, question 9.
Yes.
Another graph.
C is correct.
C is correct. You circled C. It feels like exactly the same as the 2 questions earlier. Like, what's the y-intercept?
Well, more or less, it says which of these could be the equations. You also kind of need to think about the gradient as well, right? Because some of them are plus x and some of them are minus x, I think. Oh no, they're all minus x. Oh no, sorry, they're not. Some of them are plus x, some are minus. Yeah.
And we both got
So
C
you have to
there.
think a little bit about the gradient.
That's a relief. Okay. So question 10.
Quadratic. What is the value of k? Where does it cross the? Oh, this is another.
It's
intercept.
another y-intercept question. Yeah, like I think I remember feeling angry at being over-tested on my y-intercept.
Well, you got it right, so you do still know how to do intercepts. 3 out of 3.
We both got D. That's a relief. Question 11 is next. That's right angle triangle. Looks like it's a similar one. Yes.
That's 12. 11's the circle one. That was another thing that got me. That got me in the exam, right? Jumping between questions.
And that could mess you up if you're particularly filling in on that answer grid, which I know you weren't because you couldn't be bothered. But like the order of the questions really matters about you putting it onto some independent grid. So anyway,
Just as a little aside, I like that you drew a picture. Appreciate that.
which was for question 11?
You drew a little circle, radius 2, and written center 5, 7. It's been drilled into you, right, as a mathematician. Like, okay, we're doing geometry, I'm drawing a picture. Like, boom. No matter what I'm asked to do, I'm drawing a picture.
I feel like doing anything in maths, draw a picture. And if any student ever comes to me and says I'm stuck, I'm like, draw a beeping picture. If they haven't, I'm like, I'm not helping you until you've drawn something and probably got yourself unstuck. Anyway, I think the answer is A. Do you think the answer is A?
Yeah. It's A, I think. No, A is correct. I'm just laughing. I love that, like, maths advice from Ben Sparks, ladies and gentlemen. Draw a beeping picture. Very good advice, though. I back you up on this.
Draw a beeping picture. I should put it on my gravestone. No, don't do that. Anyone who buries me. There are better phrases. Okay, so Question 12 was nice because it had similar triangles, but also trigonometry, and it's a Pythagorean triple, just to confuse these slightly overlapping topics. What's the value of cosine of E? It's adjacent over hypotenuse, so it's got to be 12 over 13. And it's a ratio, right? So even if I don't know the lengths, the ratio is the same. So it's a nice question. It's kind of realizing that ratios are important here in trig, isn't it?
Yeah, you could totally see how this question would be in like a GCSE exam, you know, without giving you the answers and just being like, find this angle, you know, like it's sort of, that one feels like kind of a GCSE or A-level starter question.
Yeah, it's a nice one. And we both put...
Because as you say, there's lots of things. There's like trigonometry, there's possible Pythagoras maybe, and there's also similar triangles. There's like, you know, 3 or 4 triangle concepts coming in.
But we agreed on the correct answer, I hope.
Yeah, no, the correct answer is B. Yep.
It's going all right so far, Tom. I feel like none of us have made stupid errors. It's a relief. It'll happen, I'm sure.
Based on past performance, I think both of us will make stupid errors. It's just finding them, right? When are they going to happen? Okay, 13C is correct. What will we actually to do? Oh, we're intercepting again.
2 x-intercepts this time, which is much more about solving equations and distance between them. So if you factorize it, you get -1, -4, distance of 3. Fine. And I think
We've literally written the same thing. We both factorized and then taken the difference. Nice.
Question 13 we've done. 14 B only. Yeah, this was interesting. So this is a little bit like our argument earlier about square roots, but root 4x equals x minus 3. What values satisfy the given equation? And we've both put 9 only, is that right? Because you solved it by squaring both sides and then thinking... This is a very similar thing, isn't it? Like, because by your equation, 1 looks like it satisfies it.
Yeah, but as you were saying, when you square it, you introduce potentially another solution, don't you? So you have to be careful.
So how did you reject it? You got x minus 9 brackets x minus 1 equals 0.
Oh, I just tested them both. I mean, I've now realized I've done terrible multiple choice exam technique because I've literally solved it to see that the 2 answers are the 2 given in the question. And then I've tested them both. So I should have just tested them both because that's ultimately what I did in the end, regardless. So like you did the same though. You've literally done the same. You've solved it. I think both of us are just like not at all in tune with multiple choice style exams.
Or we're doing what we said last time. Like we're being mathematicians and forgetting we're doing an exam and just trying to be. But actually, what it does is it sorts this problem out. Is that we solve the equation and we know that we've used a technique to solve an equation. We have to check whether the solutions we've got from that technique satisfy the original problem, which we both did, and that's what the multiple choice was checking. I think, wasn't it? That your technique isn't valid unless you check whether it satisfies the original. So good. I think we both got that right, and that's...
We did. I feel like we did extra work, but we got it right.
Did you finish it in time? You didn't do anything...
No, yeah, I was under time, yeah. Yourself?
I think so, yeah. I'll check on the recording. I'm pretty sure I didn't raise any red flags on my timer, but it did feel like it was quite stressful because it was multiple choice. It wasn't long, and we had to go quite quickly.
Well, this section, I think, so this is the non-calculator one, right? So this was it 20 marks in 25 minutes?
Yeah, so it was quite quick.
Yeah. I remember, 25 minutes, 20 questions. So, like, while some of them are quite short, I do remember not, like, fully panicking, but, you know, you're on a question and you're, like, doing, you know, you spent, like, 2 minutes on it. My brain was kind of like, you need to move on, like... I feel like that perhaps was not that all these questions are really easy, but like maybe that's where the challenge really comes into this, right? Because this section is specifically 25 minutes, right? The other section was separate. Like you have to wait to go to the next section. You can't save time or anything.
But when you put yourself under pressure like this, like in any exam, I think you resort to familiarity. So, and our familiarity is just to solve the bloody thing, right? Stop trying to game the multiple choice. Just do what you're good at, which is the maths, and which is what we did. And so far, fingers crossed, it's working.
We're on full marks so far. I know we're smashing this, as we should, but still.
Simultaneous equations, system of equations they call it. Different, no mention of simultaneous. I like the idea of a system of equations. I mean, I know the phrase, but not used at this stage in UK, is it? Really?
Yeah, and this one was like the whole idea about when systems do and don't have solution. This is quite advanced. Like it's
basically matrix stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't really think about it until linear algebra university level, to be honest. Like, at least I didn't as a student. So, yeah, I thought this one was actually one of the more advanced ones.
I'm curious about what I wrote for this.
What did you say? So you have, looking at this, you've multiplied the top equation by 2. so that you've done what I done. I think I did the same, right? You've made the second equation look very similar to. Sorry, you made the two equations look similar, so then you can add them and get. And get something that makes no sense, basically, right? Because if they both got a 2y, but they equal different answers.
Gotcha. That's what I wrote down. Isn't it?
Clearly, A cannot be, right? If A was -6, which is the thing it can't be, if it was, then you'd have two equations that were -6x plus 2y equals blob, -6x plus 2y equals something else, which obviously would then be nonsense.
I'm looking back at my work and I can't quite work out what my logic is there. But
Oh, you've done it the 0 equals -8. So you actually subtracted them. And looking at your work now, you've subtracted one from the other.
so I tried to make it insoluble.
Yeah, you've got a plus 6 brackets x is -8, and then you've said, well, if the a plus 6 disappears, we've got 0 equals -8, which is nonsense. That's clever. That's a good way to think about it.
It's a sort of GCSE way of solving simultaneous equation where I'm just trying to solve it, forget that it's algebra, and just going to solve it, and then realize that it will all break down at that point. Whereas you just recognized two equations that are the same on one side and different on the other are impossible, and here's how to make it work. So, a nice use of the contradiction symbol in there.
Oh, did I? All right, I'll have a bonus mark for that. Thank you.
I guess it is a contradiction, isn't it? 6 minus 6x, negative 6x plus 2y cannot equal both 4 and 12. Contradiction all over. Good. So that was the end of the little section where you had to multiple choice it, and then it goes on to numbers. Yeah, but they had to fill the numbers into the answer grid, and that caused me no end of pain. But you skipped that by just
what answer grid, Ben? What possible answer grid are you talking about? Just circle the answer, right?
A manufacturer. I'm looking at question 16 here now. A manufacturer shipped stuff, blah 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 blah, modeling it again in a fairly unrealistic way. We got an answer 2,200.
Yeah, that's what it says. Correct answer is 2,200. Yeah, you just form your equation, don't you? Just, plug in the numbers to the equation we've been given and then just rearrange. So yeah, that's 2,200, which you have written, so I will tick that for you.
And then we went on to question 17, which is a modulus question. Interesting. So this is definitely like an A-level thing in this country. You do the modulus function, but not GCSE, whereas most of this so far has felt kind of GCSE, isn't it? And
oh, we did this differently, though. So I've squared it. Right, and then obviously got the two solutions. And
did I do it case by case? I can't remember what I did.
Yeah, you did. You said suppose it's equal to 5, and then suppose it equals -5. Yeah.
Yeah. So mine was like case 1, x is positive. The mod is doing nothing. Case 2, the mod is doing something. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas your method could introduce new solutions. Is that correct? Like we've been talking about so far as well, like squaring both sides of an equation could possibly introduce.
Maybe if both of them were modulus or something, or if there was an ambiguity, if one of them, had a variable that could become squared, and then when you square root, you get a plus or minus. Maybe.
But either way, they're both sort of recognized techniques of handling moduli.
Yes.
Is that the plural of modulus? I'm not sure. Modulus It is now. Okay, question 18.
Oh yeah, Juan and his antiques. I loved this one. This is like, what did we have last time? Did we have like Sophie and her game of dice or something? And now we've got Juan and his antiques. Just brilliant, these little stories they come up with.
And it's just a percentage change thing here. It's basically what's the multiplier to get you there in one go, is that right? That's it.
Yes.
And it's 1.21.
Though it's interesting you had to know 1.1 squared. Like, to be able to do that in your head, that would put off a lot of people. That would put off a lot of students, I think. But I just did it as 11 squared and then divided by 100.
I mean, and that feels like a sensible way to do it. So we've both got, I'm just filling in answers. We're both 1.21.
1.21, correct. For that one, yeah.
So far, so good. Are we gonna nail this? This doesn't seem likely. Question 19. More simultaneous equations that are called systems of equations. Solving this in your head, I think.
Oh, did you solve it though? No. See, I started solving it as well.
Thing together, right?
I thought that was too easy. I was like doing it, and my first thought was like you say, try and solve, and then I was like, oh no, you just had them.
Is it not testing that people like see simultaneous equations and try and solve them and realize that actually it's just recognizing that you don't have to solve things. If you need the sum of two things, you can just use the algebra to get that, and it's just because then it is really easy, right?
Yeah. Literally, just take a sum. It's what was the correct answer here? 2,500. Yeah, which we both got. It's looking good. And then the last one, if u plus t, difference of two squares, wasn't it?
Right, difference of two squares turned up a few times on this paper, and I felt justified in saying a few times in various things. The difference of two squares turns up unreasonably often in school maths and everyday maths, whatever.
Yeah, well, it's a really nice technique, isn't it? Right, like, yeah, and that gives you 20 is the answer, and you get 20 out of 20, Ben. Well done. Section 3, non-calculator.
We both got full marks. Is that true?
I mean, it's only one section. We've got a twice as long section to come. We've done like a third of the exam, but
And so the next section, what was the next section?
calculator paper.
And it was 55 minutes and many more questions, right? So are we going to go, should we just bust straight into that?
Just before we do, I would just like to put out a disclaimer, which you can totally see in my video. I had my calculator. I did most of it in my head, and then I got to like, I don't know, halfway through. Tried to turn on said calculator because I'd finally got a sum that I was like...
You hadn't prepared for your exam well enough, Tom. Is that what happened?
Yeah, my calculator had no battery. And then obviously, what even does a calculator battery look like? Is it one of those weird little flat metal watch batteries? Because I don't know. So I literally had to do this all in my head.
So that's what I used, and my electronic calculator was plugged into the mains via my computer, so it didn't run out. But I don't know, let it be a lesson to us all, Tom, that preparing for an exam is just as important as doing an exam.
No, you're true. You're true. So I think I did still try and work them out. And I think, we'll see if I got them right or not. I feel like it just took me a bit longer. But yeah, so my calculator failed and I just had to, be like, okay, I don't have time to go and get new batteries. I'm going to have to deal with this. So we'll see if it impacted, right?
We will. The section 4 of this paper was calculator. That was what was different about. What else was different is that you had to do it multiple choice again. You had to write on an answer grid again, Tom. But also at the
I don't know what
again,
this mysterious answer grid is that you keep talking about. I have never seen such a thing.
Let me put it on the screen here, just because the answer grid is surprisingly interesting. And we talked about it briefly, that there was a misprint on it, but even in the last bit of section 3, you had to write your answers in and then sort of describe the numbers in the bubbles here. And so you had to colour in a decimal point when there was one.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That's actually ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. And if the answer's a fraction, you have to sort of write in a colouring blob for the vinculum,
Like
the
the
line
division
bit.
thing. Yeah. No, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
It was a bit crazy. Anyway. So
maybe I saw it and just actually was like, I'm not doing that.
not doing that. I'm going to make it
I'll
hard
pretend
for
I
them to
never saw it.
Let's start talking about it. So question 1 in this calculator section, it has a nice picture of a calculator at the top, just in case we'd forgotten. Helicopter hovering, which function represents its altitude? Because it's a linear thing, so we both put B, and that's correct. I think, isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay,
that is
really
B. Oh, I love this one. This is again 2022 on point, right? Well, no, maybe not. This would have been on point maybe 20 years ago. 2002 on point. A text messaging plan charges a flat fee. Who still pays for individual texts? But anyway, yeah, no, I thought that was cool. I quite like that one.
And there was this flat fee, and then some extra cost after
And then it goes
100, right? So
yeah. So it's got to be A.
it was tempting, I think, to put B because, like, if you weren't careful about what you're graphing, you could say like you use your 100 and then you stop sending messages, and that's what graph B feels like, maybe. But anyway, I think we both put A, didn't we? I'm not actually. I can't actually see my answers, so tell me if I get. these
no,
wrong
we did.
otherwise.
No. I'm taking. Don't worry, Ben. I will tell you if you don't get one correct.
That's a
I
good
wouldn't
point.
worry about that.
I'm not worried. I know you'll hold me to task. So question 3, another graph, bag of popcorn graph this time. So who graphs their popcorn eating? I kind of like this thing of graphing sort of organically real situations in a little fun graph.
I agree. I think it's a really nice way to try and understand what a graph actually is.
Yeah.
That is how
I'm just trying to
thought
remember the situation here. He eats half the popcorn during 15 minutes. He stops eating because the film is so amazing, clearly. Then he gradually eats it. So there's got to be a lower gradient, right? And then he spills it all.
Yeah.
So you've got to look for a cliff edge, haven't you? You've got to look for a spill situation. And I think you've got to look for a monotonically decreasing graph. I'm sure they wouldn't think in these terms, right? But it's got to be going down.
Well,
And
I
that
just drew it.
eliminates everything, right?
I mean, as you can see on my script, I just literally, as I was reading the question, I just drew something and then was like, oh, look, it's there. Great.
Oh, look, it's B. Yeah. Perfect. I like that technique. What did I do? Did I do anything useful?
You just literally wrote B. You just wrote B. That's it. You were just like, I got this.
I was like, the time pressure was clearly kicking in at the point. It's like, I'm not going to draw any drawing beeping pictures. Who would do that? Oh dear. Question 4. Simple equation.
Nice
Solve it.
Bit of algebra. That was fine.
Why does it want
Well,
3x?
again, it's just trying to be sneaky, isn't it? Right? It's making sure you read the question. It's like that other one, right? Because you're going to get X. Everyone knows, like, oh, look, X is 5. and then I bet loads of people circled A.
I
That's
feel
a
like
bit
they're,
sneaky.
they're checking the same skill again. Can you figure out how multiple choice things work? But whatever.
Yeah.
They're allowed to do that.
No,
Question
you've
5.
Got that one correct.
Function x plus 3 over
Function minus
2.
f of -1. So you have said that is C, which is 1. Yeah.
Yeah, and so have you. So
Cool. Just sub it
That's
in,
a
don't
relief.
you?
yeah,
Yep.
I feel like there's nothing interesting to say about that one, is there? But
6. Which of the following is equivalent? You just expand it, right? Yeah. Expand
Yeah,
brackets.
no,
Just
really-
checking.
simple algorithm. It suddenly felt like we're going back to basics. So you put D, and presumably I put D, did I?
Well, I'm assuming that section 3 maybe starts easier and then builds up, and then I'm guessing section 4 starts easier and builds up, right? But I agree with you. It
does
felt
feel like that,
weird
doesn't it?
because we'd kind of, you kind of gone to the hard stuff and then you come back to the easier stuff to then go hard. It was like a wave that you're riding because of specifically it was done as non-calculator followed by calculator. But
Let's see how hard it gets quickly. So question 7, a lot of words to read. There were a lot of words in these questions. Retail company, researcher, job satisfaction. Oh, it's a sampling question, is that right?
yeah, I was about to say this one felt very non-mathematical. Obviously, statistics and sampling is an important part of statistics, but it felt very non-mathematical. It was kind of more of a reasoning.
And I think A-level students in this country feel angry about being asked questions like this on their maths exams as well. But it's desperately important. If you can't take an appropriate
Yeah.
sample, you can't get a mathematically meaningful conclusion. But
I agree.
so
you've
we
got
did we
B.
both say B? Yeah.
We have indeed. We both said B.
There were
We know
some
how to do our
classic.
sampling.
Well, there were some really classic wrong answers here. Survey the highest paid and lowest paid.
Yeah.
I guess that create a website in which employees can express their opinions. I guess you limit it to only web using employees. And then selecting one of the stores at random and the surveying everyone there feels like, well, you're not getting across the board, are you? I guess they're wrong for sensible reasons. It wasn't as funny as I was thinking there, sorry. Question 8.
Yeah, depositing their savings accounts. How much more did Ian deposit each week than Jeremy? So you're kind of comparing gradients, won't we? Basically.
Yeah. And if you don't understand what gradient is, this is tough. But if you do, it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah,
But-
so $50 C.
Yeah,
you've
did I write
written-
C?
You've written C, yeah, for question 8. Yeah, 8C. That's correct.
Nice. Question 9.
Yeah,
H
it's
equals
also
2
C.
to the x. And I don't know what I wrote, but you wrote C. And it's just
You've
2
written
to
C,
the 5.
yeah, you've done the same as me.
minus- Okay.
Work out the two of them, right? Work out 2 to the 5.
And then,
that
and
one,
then do the subtraction really carefully because that's the bit I'd mess up rather than the. Well,
well, yeah, I had to work out 2 to the 5. Fortunately, it's a low enough power I could do it in my head.
and powers of 2 are quite familiar, aren't they? They feel like
Yeah.
they feel like they.
You can work out any power of 2 if you're prepared to sit there and just keep doubling.
Doubling is doable, isn't it? Doubling is doable. It's almost a catchphrase. Not a good catchphrase, but almost one. Keep talking. Question 10. There's another survey. Yay, we like our surveys.
It was interpreting the results, wasn't it? That was it, yeah. You had to figure out, it was
like
interpreting what
this
does it
question.
mean by the error. That was quite, yeah, this is really
margin of error,
important
yeah.
because people don't really understand this very well. Not just students.
Particularly if they
generally.
say, like a news story says something is 5% higher than something else, and actually the margin of error is 10%. Like the headline is meaningless. Absolutely, like
Exactly. Yeah.
so. This one felt like you just read through the answers and which one is the most cautious about making any conclusion. It just felt like that one. Like it is plausible.
Yeah. Yeah.
that something
Maybe
is at
this
least
could be sort of
between-
something. Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah,
it
no,
felt
that
like a
was-
nice question to force people to think about. It didn't feel like it's mean,
Yes.
even though it doesn't feel like maths. It feels like common sense, but it is important.
Yeah. And 11 is A, mean and standard deviation stuff.
That's a relief. You put little crosses by a couple of them just because you were checking. I think you had to
mean.
calculate the mean, didn't you? And
Yeah,
you had
yeah.
I didn't want to calculate the standard deviation. I just used the fact
Agreed.
that I know standard deviation is like a measure of spread, and so I had
Yes.
to do something like thinking about the squashedness. But then it's
Yeah, well,
common sense because the second one's more squashed, right? Less
Exactly.
spread out.
Exactly. That was how I thought about it. Yeah. In my head, I was like, oh, don't make me calculate the standard. Especially because my calculator wasn't working. I was like, don't make me
Oh.
do this because that's going to be a pain.
So I interrupted your story earlier, and I'm really sorry, but you didn't actually go and get batteries. You did it without.
No, I just did it all in my head. Yeah. I just had to deal. I mean, let's be honest.
enough.
So far,
It
I
was
don't
doable.
think anything, everything so far has been doable. So
I don't know how much I did on a calculator actually.
Yeah.
I think I did do it because I did drag that electronic. I remember dragging that electronic one onto the screen at some point. Anyway, let's see if I needed it.
maybe for this one, possibly.
Yeah, so
40%
it's a
off its
divide,
original- Yes,
what
you have
was
to
the
divide by
original
0.6, right?
Yeah, but you turned it into a fraction, which is a really sensible thing to do, and then you can do
Because I had no
multiplication.
calculator. That was why, right? Otherwise, I'm doing 18 divided by 0.6 in my calculator. But because I didn't have one, I had to do this fraction. This was the question when I wanted to get it out.
Yeah, nice. Okay, but you got 30, and I presume that's correct.
Yeah, C30 is correct. Yes, you've got that one as well. All
That's
good.
a relief.
13. What was that one? Oh, we had to interpret this data 13 and 14, didn't we? About the pesticide
Colonies,
stuff.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So a graph and a paragraph of stuff, and then which colony should it decrease in size every 2 weeks. So you just want a thing that's going down after this.
Continually going down. One of them goes up, doesn't it? The other two go down. Yeah. C, the black one. C goes up and then comes down. So it can't be that. So it has to be the other two, which is 1 and 2 only. And you have written C, and that is correct.
And so did you. That's a relief. I tell you what, coming back to these questions cold is like, man, I don't remember thinking about this. I remember just being in a hurry and a bit conscious of time.
Yeah.
I think I didn't need to be. But...
Yeah. I agree. I felt the time pressure. Definitely felt the time pressure.
So 14.
14
Ratio of total number of insects in all 3 colonies in week 8. So
Oh, you had to kind of guess, right, what the total was.
To the total number of insects at the time. Okay, so the total in the week 8, you had to sort of sum those bars, which you didn't have exactly. But I think I did roughly 50, roughly 20, and roughly 10. So that's...
You haven't written the numbers
80.
here, but yeah. That's what I've said. Yeah, I've written 80 on here, and then the other one was roughly...
Oh, you've got 200 arrow 80, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, did I
That's
not
what
write
I'm
the
saying.
numbers?
You didn't, but you got A, which is correct. So
I just jumped straight
yeah.
to the answers, didn't I? Yeah, okay. Because I knew that my answer grid wouldn't record all my working, Tom. That's what... Anyway, I presume then I just added up 80, 60, 60. I think in week 0, I kind of averaged those 2 second bars there.
Yeah, I think I did 70, 50, 80. But yeah, either way, right? As long as...
Yeah.
That's why I think it says estimate, because obviously we can't read off the exact figures from the scale
Yeah.
on the graph.
Which is then a useful skill to get the approximate thing.
Yeah.
Although, why you'd want that
I
ratio...
agree.
Oh, I guess it's how much is left. Is that... So there's 40% insects still alive.
2
I
to
guess that's a
5,
sensible question, yeah. Okay.
Um,
Right circular cone. Do we call this a different thing? I think we do call it a right circular cone, but when I remembered the original, when I was looking at the formula book in the original beginning of the paper, and it has a formula for a right triangle, and I noticed that we don't call them right triangles in England. We call them right angled triangles.
Right-angled. Yeah.
And I think the US calls them right triangles, and it's slightly confusing for a British person to think of, because if you just say right triangle, you kind of feel like it's the correct triangle.
Yes. What does that mean?
Yeah,
I know.
but
what
I
you
think
mean,
it's
yeah.
maybe etymologically closer to the original meaning of why we call a right angle a right angle. It's somehow
the correct angle.
a true
yeah.
angle,
Yeah,
a true perpendicular. I'm not quite sure about the etymology. I should look that up. Anyway,
No,
circular cone.
that's interesting. Yeah, and then this was the first time I had to use the formula, right? I think I should obviously know the volume of the cone, and clearly it's a third of a sphere volume. Like it.
Clearly, if the proof is
it's
recent
not,
in
is
your
it?
head, anyway.
Is it that?
I think it is. It's the third of a
Oh no, pi r
cylinder.
squared.
Third of a cylinder.
Yes, a third of a cylinder. That's it, third of a cylinder, which makes complete sense. But yeah, no, I did scroll up and look at the formula to do this one.
And it is B, right?
It is B. It is B. Yeah, it is 6. That was question 15. Is indeed B. Right, 16. Oh yeah. Oh, I nearly messed. I did mess this one up and then figured it out. Fortunately, spotted.
Yeah, it was
well,
a bit confusing, wasn't it? So it's X and Y were cities, and then X increased by 20%, and Y decreased by 10%.
and you had to figure out what was Y's original
Yeah,
thing. or
and this
something. Yeah.
again, like a diagram of time and the 2 cities would have been
Yeah.
helpful, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So you've done the same kind of multiplications that I did. So again, not having a calculator, this was annoying. Having to do 0.9 divide by 0.9 and times 1.2, like doable, but this was annoying for me. But no, I think when I did it, I ended up with the answer of 1.6 million. So I was like genuinely super happy that this was multiple choice, because if it hadn't, I'd have left the answer as 1.6 million, because at some point I'd added an extra 0
Easily
to
done,
my
right?
numbers. Yeah, so at some point I just was thinking in too big of numbers. So then when I saw it wasn't there, I was like, well, clearly it's 160,000, and then, but
Nice. A multiple choice
so I nearly-
save there.
It was a good save. I'll happily admit the multiple choice saved me on that one.
But then multiple choice has been trying to catch us out throughout this, so it feels like the balance is evening up.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
17. The volume of a sphere this time. This is why you're thinking of your spheres.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't write
So
down
you
the
got
answers.
one
there,
correct.
so That's
D,
a relief.
yeah, D. Oh, it's just rearrange the formula. You don't even have to plug the numbers in, do you? It's just checking your algebra. You know how fluent you are with rearranging.
Yeah.
That's all you.
Feels like
Oh,
a
look there,
basic
you can
thing.
see it. You can literally see there on my paper, 1.6 million. I've written it there.
Oh, yeah,
next
it's
to
on the
that
next question. Now I
right?
see
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
I've written it there because, as you can see, I've got 1.44 million for some reason. Anyway, it all worked out. It all worked out, but
All's
you can
well that
literally
ends
see it
well.
happen.
Yeah,
You can
even on
see
the
it
wrong
happen.
question. I mean, it's not like it mattered that you didn't write it on the answer grid. I'm not bitter about this, and I won't keep going on about it. And that's a lie. Question. I just went through the pain of the answer grid, and you didn't. So I feel like I've come out more mentally scarred than
Yeah, I can tell it affected you. I can tell you need therapy for this answer grid, Ben.
So, question 18, survey grid. No, sorry. Did we both put D for the other one?
Yeah. We both got D for the volume one, and then we both said C, I think, for 18. Which is
Based on the table,
correct.
given that the tablet. Oh, yeah. So you just got to figure out, given that you've got never. Wait.
I went over the top and did like a whole Bayes theorem, conditional probability, which
Yeah,
you didn't
what
need
does
to
it-
do. I just see the word given, and I'm like, oh, it's probability Bayes theorem. You just had to take like 1% out of the total of the three others, or something like that, right? That was you were
So
just
I-
taking the correct ratio.
I'm reading the question
did
again. I
get
can't
it.
remember.
You did get it. You got because obviously all four of them equal 100, so you just need to
All right.
take
So just take out the 31.3.
exactly, yeah, and do
31%
30.9
out, and then the
over-
rest is 30 out of
68.
whatever's left, about 70, so it's approximately a half. And I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be C, isn't it? Did I do calculations
Exactly
for it?
You wrote down 30.9 divided by 68.7, which are the correct percentages, which I think is what I wrote. But then you just kind of look at that and say, well, it's
All right, it's
approximately
the C.
a little bit less than a half, so it has to be C. Yeah.
Yeah, at this point I was trying to keep speeding on, I think, and I
You
didn't
could, of
need
course,
to.
put it in the
but, yeah.
calculator, though. You could have used the
Oh,
calculator,
that's
but I
true.
had to guess.
Maybe I did. Maybe I did do that. Right, question 19. A bit of algebra with an unknown
Where's
A
its
in there.
maximum? Yes.
All right, yeah. So it's a completed square version. That's
Knowledge
nice.
of graphs, yeah. Knowledge of completing the square. So you got that D. And
Tom,
D is
I'm
correct.
proud of you.
Yeah.
You drew a beeping picture, and I'm pleased.
You bet. So did you. Your picture's better. You've got axes. I don't have axes. But anyway.
Axes smash knees. Who needs axes when you've got an answer grid? Sorry, I'm still bitter. Let me. I want to go back and draw my picture. Oh yeah, I did. I drew it in the right place roughly. That's a relief. Okay. Question 20.
More stats. So it's saying
Maximum
how does
value
the-
84. Oh yeah, when you add more data in.
Yeah, which will be 12 greater when you change the data, basically. I mean, they all could be, depending on the data, but it's definitely the range. Like,
Right, because the maximum was 84 and it's now gone up. Yeah, so I think we just both
Yeah.
circled C straight away, didn't we? And probably moved on.
yes,
Yeah,
that's exactly what we've done. Yeah, that one's correct for 20.
that's a relief.
Okay.
And 21.
21. The answer's B. Oh, that one. This was a nightmare without a calculator. This one took me ages.
Yeah, so it's some sort of chemistry dilution question, isn't it?
Yes. So Clayton's doing some chemistry, and they've plugged in all these numbers, and you just have to figure out what's happening. So yeah, it's kind of. I thought this one was quite hard because there's a lot going on, and you have to interpret all of the words correctly. Right. So like, yeah, this is probably the most working you've written on any question so far.
Yeah, and I wrote down a little simultaneous equation, did I? And put 100 in. I think I got this wrong. Did I?
It says choice B is correct. 25 mils. No, this looks right to me.
I feel like I had to go back and look at this, but I can't see that in my working that I've changed anything. I feel like maybe I made a misprint.
Looking at your answer sheet, which I
I have to go and watch my video. In fact, we should mention if you haven't watched our videos of actually trying to do this exam, it might be a good time to go and do that.
Yes.
Advert side. We both wrote B though, and that's a relief because that's correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Question 22.
Eleanor's fundraising. Oh, this was quite neat. I liked this. Very topical as well. With
She
the
invited double
type
the
of-
number of year previously.
Yeah. So what type of function is it? So it's not
Right.
linear because it's
Yeah.
not constantly increasing.
And
Its
it's definitely
increase
increasing.
depends on the previous number. So it's got to be an exponential increase.
Right, and you wrote down a little difference equation. Is that right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I started with that, and then I
Nice.
realized like I'm going way too over the top with this. I just then thought it can't be linear, and it's
Yeah.
definitely increasing, so it has to be d. I did that like.
But it's a nice
process
realization
elimination.
that a difference equation of that form has a solution, which is an
Yes.
exponential, and that's not obvious until
True.
you've studied them a few times. That's great. I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
yeah,
so
yeah.
D. Well, did we both write D?
We both wrote D.
That's
both
a
wrote D. We're
relief.
looking. I think we're still on full marks so far.
Yeah, worrying.
This is-
23. Some values of X and
23.
corresponding values
The
of
answer
Y.
is A. The answer is A.
So it's a linear relationship, and it was going up in 2A's for X and down by an A for Y. Oh, right, so you had to
I just
get
looked at the
formula.
intercept. I remember this. I remember
Yes,
thinking
nice.
like this was too easy because I was like, well, by the first column, it's literally A because all of the others don't have, the
it's
plus
a
C
single A, yeah.
has to be A. Like, I don't know. That was just how I looked at it.
What did I do? 23. It looks like I went to town a bit, didn't I? What did I do?
You did. You're doing all kinds of like, yeah. You
Oh, I
did,
set
like
up a linear
could it be
equation y equals
linear?
capital AX plus B, and then just dumped a value in. And I
Yeah.
feel like I got myself confused. I remember this taking longer than I wanted to.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a little arrow on my working. Can you see a little arrow in the second last line?
Yes. No.
A little
Where am I looking?
arrow pointing to a negative sign. It's
Oh,
on the
sorry.
screen
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Ah, did you miss that one originally?
Yeah, so I spent ages hunting back through this, trying to find the error because I got an answer which is not one of the
Gotcha.
multiple choice ones.
Again,
And,
you've been
wasted a lot of time.
saved.
Saved by the
by
multiple choice. There's at least one each, isn't it? There's at least one each.
Maybe that's what we should be keeping track of, actually.
How many near misses we had? Yeah, definitely. So
All right.
that was 23. We both wrote A in the end, and I just
Yeah,
took
I was
longer
both
than I
correct.
should've.
Yeah. 24 answers B, which you've got.
Yeah, I was just draw the best. Is it which could be the equation? Is that right?
Yeah, so it's already drawn. Yeah, no, it's already drawn, and it just says which of these could be that equation, based on what's drawn. And they're clearly missing an intercept, but it has to have gradient a half, right? That's how I thought about it.
So does it go through the origin?
Oh no, it will. So yeah, it will go through the origin, won't it? Yeah, because that's what threw me. The scale, right? They've got each like the horizontal distance. It looks like squares, but it's actually
Yeah,
20 by 10. It's rectangles. It's a bad graph.
Rectangles,
I don't like that
but
graph.
they're not rectangles. I don't think even if you put the right numbers on, there wouldn't be squares in the same.
No,
It'd be-
no,
yeah.
it's a bad graph. I think that's actually an example of a bad graph.
Yeah,
all
or
honesty.
possibly definitely a misleading one because
Yeah.
it looks like it should be 1x perhaps or slightly off, but you just got to understand the scale is what's important, not the visual
Yes.
leaning.
Yeah.
Good. So we both wrote B, yeah.
Yeah. We're good so far.
good.
And then 25, we've got to do two equations. What's the x coordinate of the intersection? So that's figuring out that we have to solve simultaneous equations, right?
Yeah.
As well as
Presumably we
figuring those
both.
out.
So you just circled A. How did you solve that? Did you write anything down? Oh no, you wrote it down on the right hand side here. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's on
you
the
did
right.
write
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Obviously, again, done without a calculator.
So you did that
Fortunately,
by
the numbers were nice.
multiplying the second line by 3. What did I do?
Yeah.
Did I do something similar?
Same thing. You multiply the second line by 3. Yep. Done the same thing. X is minus
Almost
a half.
certainly without a calculator. Oh, maybe I did use a calculator. I think at this point I remember reaching. I was like, I'm not going to multiply 1.6 by 3 and just mess up and let Tom gloat at me. Good. So we both wrote A. That's good. I know you wouldn't gloat. That was doing you a disservice.
I was about
but,
to say, it doesn't sound like me. We'll see. We'll see how the rest of this exam goes. So far, we're neck and neck.
Yeah. So
26
question
is-
27. Oh no, did I miss 26? Oh, yeah, it's up
26
the
is
top.
D.
Yeah.
26 is D. This is Keith
Another
and his
exponential.
tree population. Similar to the one we had earlier, but you just have to make sure, like, it's instead of testing your numbers ability with multiplying decimals, now it's testing, spotting what the equation would be.
This is a strange thing. He's modeling growth of trees by collecting pollen from a lake. Like, really? Was that the best he could do?
Have we got any biologists watching?
Yeah, please tell us
Or
if this is a
people who-
valid way.
Please tell us if this is a real way of checking growth of trees. I didn't even pay attention to that. I just read it. It was like,
Yeah,
what's
it's a
going
1%
on? I
increase.
yeah. I didn't even think
Yeah.
about the actual biology of the question.
Probably for the best.
Dubious
Maybe
at
it is a
best.
sensible way. I'm trying to think if there's an easier way. If you've got access to a lakeshore, like, is there another thing you could collect that's not pollen in the water? Because honestly, that sounds like a lot of scraping through a lot of mud
Yeah.
to get trees populated. Anyway, maybe that's the best way. Question 27. Looks a bit more mathematical here, doesn't it? Forget this biology rubbish.
Yeah, just a bit. A lot of algebra going on.
So it's just
I
solve
think I
it again.
realized.
There was something weird. So it's something strange because the bracket was the same on both sides. Would it be tempting for some people to try and cancel it? I don't know what I did. But, I mean, obviously bad idea because it wasn't a factor to cancel. But...
I think you just kind of rearranged a little bit. I did realize that if we know what 2/3 of it is, then I tried to then say, well, oh yeah, that was it. I realized I've got 2/3 of it on the left and 1/3 on the right. So if I subtract 2/3 of the bracket from both sides,
Yeah,
that was how I
sensible,
thought about it. That was how I thought about it. To get.
I'm looking at my work and I'm not sure what I was thinking because your method sounds great, but I was puzzled about
I don't know
why
what you did either. But
9x minus
so...
6 isn't fully factorized, and that's what surprised me. Is there's 2/3 of something that's not fully factorized. In fact, the factor of 3 comes out and cancels with the 3, and there's just 2 lots of
and
that
then
thing.
it
And then,
makes it, yeah.
but then
yeah.
then I just had to solve it anyway. Anyway, the answer's A.
You got it right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's
the answer's A. We're still good here. You said 28. The answer is D. Yes, that's correct.
Did you write D as well? Yeah.
I think I did. Yeah, you just got to get your intercept at yeah, we got an intercept at -3, and then the point was it had to be another value k, and we're told k is a positive integer. And what was the other thing that we knew?
All right, so
about
it's
this?
positive. It's a positive quadratic, and
So it has to be D. Yeah, positive quadratic. So it can be C or D, and only D goes through -3. Yeah, easy.
yeah, that was it. Okay.
Yeah.
So then 29. Another linear relationship.
answer,
Adult male. Oh, this is your
29.
getting your height from your femur
D.
bone. So as long as you can.
Yeah.
Wait, your femur's in your arm, right?
Yes? No? Femur, not leg. Or is that fibia? Oh, I don't know.
Tibia,
Tibia
shin.
or fibia? Fibia is the leg then. Yeah, because tibia and fibia are the legs. So femur must
I
be
think
the
femur's
arm,
your arm. Is it? Is it?
Okay.
I
Yeah,
realise
I'll buy
you
that.
can't necessarily see my arm. I was holding up my femur. I think that's your femur, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, this is great. So if you chop someone's arm off, you know their height, and they don't come running after you, complaining that you
Don't
chopped
try this
their
at
arm.
home. Don't try this at home.
Or anywhere. In
As in the
fact,
chopping bit. You can do the
Alright.
measurement, just don't do any chopping.
I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if you don't actually chop it out of them. You just measure their arm. Okay, whatever. Because it's an
that
approximate.
would be the
incre-
way a non-psychopath would do it, Ben.
I'm glad we've clarified it. I'll make notes. The approximate increase in a man's height in inches for each 1 inch increase is. Oh, that's the meaning. So basically, again, it's chest and gradient. Like, do you understand what a gradient means?
Yes.
It should be a rate for 1 inch, and that's the only thing that described it. I think the other ones were just.
Yes.
I guess part A is catching a sort of a y-intercept. Is it? No. I'm not going to deconstruct all their other options, but
Yeah. I agree. It had to be D. Gradient was the key thing.
okay, good. We both got D.
30 is A, which you got, so it's 150 degrees. So we use the fact that 2 of these lines are parallel. And what did we have to figure out here? We needed to know the angle. How did I figure this out? Oh, it's trigonometry, isn't it? That was how I did it.
In quadrilateral
trigonometry.
ABCD, AD is parallel to BC. Yeah, so the top and bottom are parallel, and CD is a half of AB. And that's weird because they're not the parallel lines, nor are they parallel.
But because you know that, right? So because you know that CD is a half of the other one, you can label the diagonal 2x, and then your height has to be x, and then you've got a cos. That one was tough actually. Like
So
there was quite a few parts to it.
It's a sine, though, isn't it? Hold on. Oh,
Adjacent over hypotenuse, right? For the angle AB, whatever. Because we want that.
Oh,
my
right, yeah.
diagram,
I was looking at the bottom left.
thing I've labelled. You've written
Theta.
cos. You've written cos of theta needs to be a half, so theta is 60. So it's because it was testing your setup of the problem, and then
Yes.
it tested do you know your standard cos and sine.
And
angles.
looking at it now, we did exactly the same. I've just now looked at my own script, and we did the same thing. But what's interesting is that I fell into the trap of thinking the bottom left angle was the one that we were thinking about, which is a classic thing. If all you've ever taught students is trigonometry with triangles that way up, then as soon as you put an angle somewhere else, they're like, what the fudge is going on?
What
here?"
is this? Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
and I
that's
fell
true.
into that trap.
That's true.
So we both wrote A. That's good. 'Cause
Correct.
That's correct. And then we're done with the
Right.
multi-choice ones, right? So it's now
We
writing our
are.
answers down.
It's the last section of the last section, and we've both yet to drop a mark.
And this is where-
suspenseful.
Well, this is where I got really freaked out by the answer grid not containing the number 6, despite
Right,
the
yeah,
first
yeah.
answer being 6. And that, anyway, if you don't watch any other part of my video, watch my reaction to that. I got a bit upset.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Lynn
Okay.
has
Oh yeah, the oranges. Yeah, 6
bloody
oranges,
apples
right.
and oranges. I'm kind of allergic to maths questions that mention apples and oranges, but no tax. It's clearly an American thing. Like the fact that people have to think about tax on a purchase
no
at
tax.
the point of contact is like, I must be in America. It's very confusing.
Just a bit.
We love you Americans, by the way. I nearly shouted, we hate you Americans. We don't hate you, and we just think your tax arrangements are just more complicated than they have to be at the checkout.
They're
at least-
annoying. Yeah,
at least for
I
me.
agree. Yeah.
So,
So yeah, you just had to figure out how much was left, right? You figure out how much was 5 apples, what's left of my $8, how
Yeah.
many can I squeeze into that?
a little
And
linear
obviously I'm
programming
going
problem,
above
but
it. Yeah.
I wrote down
Yeah, no, that
inequalities.
was
that,
nice.
that feels unnecessary, doesn't it?
You've written 6, so you got it right.
Yeah, I
yeah,
love
you
the
have
fact that
written
I've
an
used
inequality, but-
the letter O for an
I was about to say,
algebraic
it looks
variable,
like
which is
I was like, 6.3 is bigger than 0, Ben.
Yeah.
Well done. Does that give you the answer?
I agree. I wrote down a true statement. 0 is less than 6.33, but now I see it as an O. Let it be said that it's a bad tactic to use the letter O for an algebraic variable, but it got me the answer. So, I had to write down the number 6. So I'm going to, in our little answer grids, I'm going to write down 6 because we both wrote 6. But this time,
Yes.
the multiple choice won't bail us out. Is that right?
Yeah, no, this was actual answers, but yeah, you've written 6. We're all good.
32.
The next one was weirdly easy.
If you know that triangles add up to 180, which I seem to remember there was a problem in your GCSE exam, Tom, about what you remember. about
Quadrilaterals and 360.
Yeah,
And it's ingrained now. Once you make that,
Good.
once you forget that, you do embarrass yourself to the
But you knew
YouTube
that.
world.
But you knew the triangle one in the GCSE exam anyway.
Yeah.
And this is the triangle.
Yeah,
one.
yeah. No, I don't know. The triangle one's just really obvious. Like it's just
Yeah.
triangle 180. I don't know. You use it all the time. I think.
Yeah.
It's the
You
most
use it, in
common
fact, to
one.
prove the 360 in the quadrilateral as well. I'll stop rubbing that one in because we all forget these things. But we both wrote 146, I think. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, you've written 180 minus 34, but I'm assuming you wrote 146
Did I leave it
in
at
your
that?
answer
Or I
script.
presume. Yeah. Well, should we check my answer grid? Is that it's on screen here? Here we go.
Yeah, I don't know what this answer grid doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned.
There
You
it
keep
is.
showing me one, but I've not got one on my screen. So
There it is. I've just put it on the screen
you
there.
did write 146.
And
alright.
there's that horrendous 5 followed by 5. So again, I had to write the number 6 by colouring in a 5, and I was just a bit upset about it. But
The
we'll
next
cope.
one, if the mean of the 5 numbers above is 1600, what is the value of x? So you just had to treat it as an unknown and do that the sum of them divided by 5 is 1600. Therefore, you've got a simultaneous equation.
Right,
And you got 2500, which is the correct answer. Go, Ben. Right.
And you did, but you kind of
think-
scribbled it on the other question
And
because
then I
since you're
put an
writing on the
arrow.
screen-
You know, I made it clear. I made it clear
you
what was
did, you
going
made
on.
it pretty clear. So far, it's
Um,
annoyingly correct for all of us, and there's no chance of us winning the competition that doesn't exist. That's good.
The
Question
relationship
34.
between x and y.
They like their linear relationships. There's a lot of linear relationships in this. Like they don't just use linear functions;
Yeah.
they're talking about relationships, and maybe that's good. Look, things are linear. Anyway, doubling things. If y is 17 when x is a, then if you double x, then you got double y, right?
Exactly.
Is that right?
So y is 34.
Yeah. Again, if you
I've
understand how
written
linear,
34. Yeah.
that's a relief.
Good. That's nice. Yeah, I agree. Right.
So
35.
the next answer is this is where I had to encode decimals or fractions into the answer grid, and that
Yeah,
scared me.
2.5 or 5 over 2. Have you written that somewhere?
You wrote 2.5.
I think I did. I don't know what your answer is. You haven't
Oh,
written it on your.
here's my answer grid. Maybe at this
written
point
it
I
on your
stopped.
answer
writing.
grid.
The answer grid looks like this. Oh dear.
You've written 5.
Oh no! I've abandoned
Oh,
my
Ben.
perfect score. I wrote 5. So, hold on a minute. Let's look back at my script here. What did I
Wow,
do? Did I write
question-
anything down here?
You did, but question 55 out of 58. Oh man, that's like getting, I don't know, that's like getting to mile 26 of a marathon and then just like.
Which question was it? This is question 35.
Oh, dude,
I wrote
35,
A.
yeah.
Okay, let me go back to the question here. This is
What have we
bad.
done?
This is a sad moment for maths.
I feel bad for you. I don't even want to gloat. I actually feel bad that you've got
In
this
the equation
far.
above,
Like,
A and B are constants. If the equation has infinite many solutions, what are the value of B? So I want it to equal 4x plus 10 on the left-hand side, right? For that to be
Yes.
just exactly the same. And so
yeah.
I
so you
think
have said
A had to
clearly-
be 4. and therefore B had to be
Yes.
10 over 4. So what did I write?
Yeah, I mean, you've said.
Oh, I wrote down A is 2. Oh,
But
look
you've
at
said A
that.
is
So
2, and then you've weirdly introduced a 2. No, you've put like a 2 here for some reason.
for somehow
I
I
don't
put
know
that
what you're
2 inside the bracket, and as I've written it, yuck.
A is still in your expression here. I think
A
in,
is
in your
4, yeah.
second line, you've still got the A is 4.
I've
You've
copied
done a
the
weird
bracket
thing
wrong.
with the 2 outside. Yeah.
I
and
think
then
I just
you've
copied
got-
that. I think what's happened is that I've realised that A must be 2, and I've got so obsessed with the number 2 that I've written it down twice.
You've written an extra.
I think
2 in,
that's
yeah.
all that's happened, and I'm a bit upset about that.
Man.
Good. Right. So
Oh,
Ben wrote down. I wrote 5 in there. It's gonna upset my heart of algebra
Yeah.
score. Apparently, you can sub-classify things into like how good. I have no idea what it's gonna. So you wrote down. You wrote down 2.5.
I feel so bad for you.
It might go wrong for you.
legit.
Yeah. Come on. It might go wrong for you.
Okay, yeah, this is true. Okay, there's 3 questions left. 36.
I don't think it will.
What have we got?
In the
I think that's
XY
equation-
plane, a line has the equation y equals c. Okay.
You need to
And-
know the peak.
The parabola.
Is it
So you
the
got to understand
tangent?
that an intersecting a parabola exactly once means it touches its peak, and it's a
Yeah,
flat
so-
line, so it's not anything complicated tangential. So if the equation has that, what is the value of c? You just need to find the peak, like you said. So I would complete the square probably, and get.
You did.
20
No, you did. You completed the square, and I think what I've done is just realize it's symmetric
Yeah.
between 0 and 5. So I'm like, well, x is definitely 2.5, and then I just
So
sub
plug
it
that in. Lovely. Okay. And did we both
So
get
I've used
25 over
symmetry.
4?
You completed the square. So no,
Which is-
we both used 2 different
Yeah,
methods.
I like
but-
that. And it's
Got it
a
right.
useful observation that completing the square gives you a lot of information, but it's giving that information because of what you did, because it makes it into a symmetrical format with a square. Anyway, so did we both write 25.4? Is my script
did.
got an answer on it?
You've written 25 over 4 here. I'm assuming your answer grid probably does as well.
Let's check.
25 over 4, 6.25. Yep.
Is that 6.25? So you was either write 6.25 or you have to sort of colour in 25 and then colour in the slash over 4. Anyway. So I panicked about converting it to decimals and all that stuff. Whatever. Right, next one. 39.
So yeah, 37. This one mentions this thing about the falcon. So I saw the word peregrine
yeah.
falcon, and then I turned away from the exam to then tell the fun fact that it's the fastest animal on Earth. And then I looked back down and was like, they told me that in the next sentence.
I think I did exactly the same because I love peregrine falcons. They live in Bath, near where I live, and I could see.
Yeah,
them
I was like, I'm not going to read the rest of the question. I'm just going to tell you all this cool fact, and then they literally tell you the fact.
I need to go and
God,
check
this
what I
is a
said.
nightmare.
So
Okay,
maximum speed while diving in feet per second. It was it was in miles per hour. We needed to convert it. Without a calculator, I would be horrified.
I was horrified. And it took me a very long time. I think it's on the next page. You can see, the next page has got all my working.
Hey, there
It's
it
like
is.
a whole page of fractions.
So you ended up with 293. How does this compare to? I might have just been bashing onto a calculator.
293.333. You did.
Right,
you got
yeah,
293 and a third.
And I didn't write
It
down
says
any working,
nearest.
so I must have clearly gone for a calculator. And
Yeah.
then what did I write in the answer grid? 293. And what did you write?
293.
You just left it on the screen there. So
I left it 293 circled.
that's a
you know.
good thing. And 293.
Also, I'm sorry, feet per second? Is that like a real thing? like, what?
I think it
someone
is,
tells me,
but
like,
I
that's a
don't think it should be
ridiculous
banned.
measurement of speed. Yeah, like,
I mean, we
like,
can't in this country claim the higher moral ground for our choice of units, but we, at least over anyone else in the world. But against America, I think we
we
have.
can.
Yeah, we should be working meters per second. I think I probably complained about that on my live recording as well. But yeah, because then the next bit is it's managed to sustain this maximum speed for half a mile. I'm like, it only gets that speed when it's literally falling.
Yeah, so it's just it's super high and it's just doing an absolute like kamikaze dive like
How would it
Yeah.
spot its prey?
for a whole 9 seconds.
I mean, I know they've got like hawk's eyes, but half a mile of 200 miles an hour. Anyway.
I agree.
Excuse
I
me.
agree.
So you got 9 seconds here.
Yeah,
You did this on the next page as well, did you? Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
1/18
So-
of a mile. Yeah, I think I must have done something similar, probably on a calculator. I just wrote down 9 seconds. Look at that. My script,
Yeah.
when the calculator gets involved, is unhelpful, isn't it? But on the,
it's just
on
answer.
the answer grid, I wrote down.
I can't believe though. Sorry, I can't believe I actually got those questions right without a calculator. Like they were
And
painful, man.
I
They
got
were
them wrong.
Painful.
I got it wrong with
Only the
calculator, so-
one, and it wasn't to do with the calculator. And it's, I feel like you explained. We can see exactly what's happened. You got very excited
Yeah.
about the number 2.
Clearly, and number 2 is my favorite number. Once in a while, I would get asked.
you go.
In fact, wasn't it at the Maths Inspiration show we were at recently? Someone asked what's our favorite number, and I was like 2. It's the only even prime number, and didn't get a laugh until I said and that makes it really odd. And it's still not a good joke. It's still not a good joke, is it? But I remember, we were on Maths Inspiration stage together, and someone asked me that, and I'm just covering up for the fact that I've messed it up. So, we did pretty well, right?
We've smashed it. Like let's be honest here. Let's not beat around the bush. We've both done as we should. Let's just add that qualifier. But no, we've both done exceptionally well. I think, assuming it's 1 mark per.
I think so. So your maths guess was 20 and 38, right? So those are your scores.
And you got a total of 57 out of 58 because you got 20 and 37. We have both done really, really well, and we both improved on last time as well. Like, I mean, obviously, right? Because I think even if you convert that to a percentage, like last time, we both dropped 3 or 4, at least like 2 or 3 marks at least last time.
Yeah.
Whereas this time it's just been the one mark between us. So
I'm curious about how they then break down your assessment here. So they break down your math scores into the heart of algebra. The heart of algebra is based on questions from the math test that focus on linear equations and inequalities. No wonder linear equations turned up all the time, eh? But this is going to be very easy to add up because you got them all right. There are 19 questions. No, 1 to 4, 9, 15 to 16, and 19 were apparently that. It would be interesting to go back and look, but frankly, right now, I can't.
Well, which one? Well, I guess which one did you? Just the only thing that we need to know, right, is
was it
what
37?
type of question? Yeah, what type of question would they claim you're not as good at, right? What area of maths does the
35.
SAT tell you? So it's 35 you got wrong. So what type of question was that? Was it in the heart of algebra? Was it in the whatever? I don't know. They have what other names have we got? Heart of algebra.
Heart of algebra contained the question 35. So I told you it was gonna destroy my heart of algebra. Oh well. Then the other one, problem solving and data analysis, was presumably another set of questions.
That would be lots of that's why they had the statistics and the interpreting graphs. Cool.
And then there was a passport to advanced maths, and I don't know if these are mutually exclusive. I don't think they are, because for example, question 20's turned up in.
A couple of so is 35 in any of the others? Is 35 only algebra? It seems to only be algebra. Okay,
yeah,
so
it was a purely algebra. So I'm just down 1 on my heart of algebra.
I was gonna say yes. If you're doing like video game character scores, like I'm like maxed out, and then you've got Ben maxed out on on data analysis and passport to advanced math, but little notch down.
Where are we? So I'm looking at my raw scores on the screen here. So my raw score, heart of algebra, was 18 out of 19, and then I got 17 and 14, and that apparently you have to turn that into a sub score out of 15. So there's a little conversion chart here, which is a bit horrifying. Wait, so 18 turns into 14 out of 15. Yeah, so I lost one final sub-score mark.
Heart of algebra.
And you would have got 15 across the way. And that would maybe makes a difference for me getting into a really good college in America. I don't know.
I'd hate
it
to
seems
think it
harsh if
would.
it does, doesn't it?
It's like a single mark drop. Yeah, this is anyone who's American has much more experience of this than we do. Please tell us, like, how do these scores correspond to, like college admissions and stuff? Like, would Ben be completely ruined by basically dropping that mark? Because to me, that seems ridiculous.
Well, I mean, we can say ruined. Would I not get into the college of my dreams and maybe realise that I get into another college which is actually fine? And
or would you be literally ruined and you wouldn't go to college? Like, I honestly don't.
And does that have financial implications? Maybe I don't get a scholarship because I dropped that mark. That would seem like a poor way of arranging things. Maybe I'm being too judgmental on a system which is hard, but it does. Anyway, long story short, we did all right, and I think we would convince people that our hearts of algebra are mostly secure.
Yeah. I genuinely feel very bad for you, though, getting that far. Like, I was hoping, obviously, I was going to win our non-competition.
Yeah, you don't want to do badly.
And I'm very pleased, and I'm being very smug, and I apologise.
You're allowed.
But genuinely, like, my heart broke to get into question 55 out of 58, right? Like,
and one
both
of us
were just like, because both of us were just like, pushing each other and doing really well. Then I was like, oh, like, I felt it, man.
And it felt like a fair exam as well. It wasn't asking ridiculous stuff. It was an interesting comparison to see what level of maths they were being asked at that level. And it's definitely below A-level standard, but it contains some A-level material, and it has a nice amount of common sense in there. And I'm glad it wasn't a common sense question that I messed up. It was just an algebraic blip. Yeah. My
which happens,
my heart of
happens to
algebra
all
is
of us.
slightly wounded.
And on that note, so huge thank you, Ben, for obviously taking part and joining in and for this discussion. It's been super fun, as always. We'll hopefully do some more. So everyone watching, keep sending in your suggestions. You know, who knows, maybe we'll do like all 100 and something countries around the world. We'll be like 60 still doing like exam papers every few months. That'd be a cool way to live your life, you know? Huge thanks, Ben. Thank you as always to everyone for watching. Please do remember to subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed the video. Go and check out Ben's channel. You can watch him doing the exam. And also there's lots of other brilliant content over there. Lots of stuff based around GeoGebra. Ben is a complete GeoGebra whiz. And it's mesmerizing watching it. And he also breaks down exactly what he's doing. So you can also become a GeoGebra whiz. It's really cool stuff. So do check that out.
And correct my algebra, right? Because obviously I need that. Yeah.
And of course, correct his algebra, because clearly anyone with a top heart of algebra score literally feels like such a video game thing. Anyway, so go check out Ben's channel, subscribe to my channel, and we'll both see you very soon for some more maths. Take care.
Bye.